Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone from Paris. As we are an international organization here at Efma, and we are working with an international consultancy, Accenture. It's important to make time-related caveats for an audience that spans the globe. My name is Kevin Spangenberg. I work here at Efma in our content production team. And I'm very excited to welcome everyone to our webinar today entitled Meet the New Insurance Customer. Today, we will be presenting the findings from Accenture's Global Insurance Consumer Study 2021, in addition to a panel with some esteemed guests. But first, I want to briefly run through our agenda for the next hour, starting with a brief introduction, which you are currently listening to, and we will then move on to the insights from the survey for around 20 minutes, and that will be followed by a panel discussion and a roundtable with our guests. So I will now introduce our speakers for the day. Presenting the study to you will be Sylvia Milian. Sylvia is Accenture Strategy and Consulting Lead for Iberia. In addition to being their lead for the beautiful peninsula, she is also the client account lead for some of the largest insurers in Spain. Sylvia is deeply knowledgeable about insurance products and channels and what it takes to create a customer-centric, multi-channel approach. Sylvia's work is guided by a belief in the importance of creating insurance customer experiences that are meaningful, enable growth, and promote equality. Welcome, Sylvia, and we are excited to hear your thoughts today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Following Sylvia's presentation, she will moderate a panel discussion with guests from some of the biggest names in insurance. And I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. It's all Spanish names today. And while I absolutely love the country, unfortunately, my Spanish courses ended in the 2nd grade. So to begin, we have Monica Garcia Cristobal, who will be joining us from Mapfre Group, where she is the Corporate Chief Digital Business Officer, developing their business strategy in the digital environment for all of their brands in the Mapfre Group, which include Mapfre, Verti, and Insurango. Monica joined the Mapfre Group in 2009 and has held various positions of responsibility with a technology and digital scope, including Director of Digital Technology, Director of the Verti Digital Area, and Director of Strategic Planning and Innovation at Mapfre Iberia. Monica, we are so glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Kevin. Nice to be here.
Great. Our second guest is Genoveva Perez Lijo. Genoveva is the head of global customer segments at Allianz Partners in Germany. She is based there where she handles key partnerships and defines their strategy around financial institutions as well as in the retail and telco segments. Prior to assuming that role, she worked for over a decade at Allianz in Spain and is well versed on the European business insurance landscape. Genoveva, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
And last but certainly not least is Stuart Domingos. Stuart leads group innovation at Zurich Insurance Group in Switzerland, where he is responsible for fostering innovation through knowledge exchange and implementation of new approaches that improve customer service. He founded Zurich's well-known innovation championship that attracts collaboration with startups from around the globe, as well as their internal entrepreneurial program, Make the Difference. Thank you for joining us today, Stuart.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being here from Zurich. Beautiful sunny weather. Hope you're also getting that.
It's not bad in Paris either. So welcome to everyone today. I believe it's going to be a great session. If you have any questions, you can enter them in the chat window on the right-hand side, and we will hopefully be able to get to them throughout or at the end. And I will now turn it over to Sylvia for her presentation on Accenture's Global Insurance Consumer Study. Sylvia, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin, and welcome everyone to our insurance webinar. We are meeting at a time where the role of the consumer in insurance has become paramount. And if we want to move forward as an industry in these challenging times, we have to understand what the consumer is thinking. So today we will be sharing an important snapshot in the shifting consumer behaviors. Let's start in the next slide with some context about our survey. We have a massive global sample of consumers. As you can see here, we have over almost 48,000 consumer respondents, over 28 global markets. And all these respondents have a bank account and insurance policy, either life, automotive, or home property. So today, I think we can really give you some highlights that are very relevant to different countries with this broad sample. Let's start with some of these highlights. If we could move to the next slide. What we are seeing is that the insurance customer is constantly evolving, with the past year only accelerating this shift. So the traditional insurer has been disrupted, but this is not a bad thing, as it gives insurers an opportunity to connect with the new and old customers in fresh ways. With the data we have accumulated in the research, we have seen three key areas of actions for insurers. The first one is about reevaluating digital services with a generational lens, because we are seeing that while technology is a key to the increasingly digital consumer, there are clear differences between the generations. Secondly, we are seeing that an opportunity to personalize consumer offerings, as the consumers are more willing to exchange data for personalized pricing, offers, and discounts. And thirdly, a key action area for insurers is to restore the trust with the digital and human interactions, as we saw that despite an increased number of digital interactions, the consumer trust is going down. So let's go deeper into these three areas and what we can do about them. If we move to the first area in the next slide, here we have some statistics, global statistics about the generational gap. You can see that there are clear differences across these segments. So for example, we found that millennials and younger consumers are more interested in digital offerings and their potential to help them make safer, healthier, and more sustainable choices. For example, almost 3/4 of these younger consumers said that they would share significant data if it meant receiving lower prices based on health, driving behavior, and exercise habits. But only 60% of consumers aged 55 and over would do the same. So we are seeing these key differences, not only in the way they look at insurance, but also the way they want to share the data. For example, 38% of the consumers, with 45% of those over the age of 55, felt that keeping personal data was too intrusive. This number is up from 25% from 2 years ago, something that we really didn't expect, given the power of the digital age. So now let's get into some statistics around these differences. In the next slide, we have a clear example of one of those areas. So for example, looking at personal cyber coverage, what we are seeing is that globally 60% of the millennial and younger consumers say that they would be interested in home cybersecurity insurance, where premiums are tied to using the latest virus protection software. But in contrast, only 40% of people aged over 55 are interested. This really shows how the different appreciation for the new offerings by the different segments. We can also have a look at this trend not only globally, but focusing in Europe, as most of the attendants today are European. So let's go into the next slide. And here we can see how the opinions don't just vary per age group, so for example, younger versus older generations, but also per country. For example, here you can see a strictly difference between countries like the UK or Italy, where consumers are really interested in this offer, while the Nordics groups their difference is much less. So what we are seeing, there are two areas for insurers to respond to these statistics. One is to make sure that we offer offerings that are tailored to the level of comfort when it comes to cybersecurity, but also there is a great opportunity to educate consumers of all generations on the benefits of home cybersecurity, because there really seems to be a big gap in appreciation. So this is one of the examples where we can see different perceptions by the generations, personal cyber coverage. But in the study, we also have other lines of business where we see these differences. So for example, if we move to the next slide, here we have the appreciation around sustainability. What we are seeing is there is an opportunity for insurers to really win over millennials and younger consumers through a commitment to sustainability. As you can see in the statistics, about 2/3 of the millennials and younger consumers favor these experiences, while less than 45% of the segment of 55 plus do so. So we really think, based on the data we have achieved, that the sustainability represents a win-win for insurers and the millennial and younger consumer segment. So it can really be an area of focus when developing new tailored products. If we look at the second area of action, let's move into the next slide. Oh, sorry, before that, let's dive in the European data before moving. So when we look at the sustainability data across Europe, we see that the younger segments want digital experiences that involve sustainable travel and shopping practices, and that they find advice on how to travel and shop more sustainably appealing, which is not the case for the older consumers. But when we look at the different trends, we see it reflected in all European markets, but with different degrees. As you can see here again, we see a big difference, for example, comparing markets like Italy and the Nordics. So this is a key learning for insurers based on the data we have gathered. There are differences across the segments, but also differences across the countries. So have this in mind when you look into personalizing your offerings as well as in the different countries. After this first section, where we have reviewed the statistics about the different generations, let's also look into how we can adjust the demand to what the customers are looking for. So overall, what we are seeing is that the consumers are saying that they are willing to exchange more data for more personalized pricing, offers, and discounts. But consumers are increasingly demanding to be charged based on behaviors and habits. But they are being very pragmatic and protective with the data. So also the statistics clearly show that consumers will only share data for incentives. So as we can see here, the trends are going up. The consumers are more willing to change data than ever before, but with the caveat of they need incentives to really move with their data sharing. Let's go now into some of the examples for data exchange. In the next slide, we can see that consumers are much more interested in personalized use and behavior-based insurance. So for example, we see an interest in picking in personalized insurance in the convergence of P&C, fitness, wellness, and wealth management. This is very key given the expectation of the increase of the value of the health and wellness market. We think it's in the insurer's best interest to develop offerings that promote wellness. So again, the statistics this year show an increase in the demand for personalized insurance, especially around usage and behavior-based insurance, which have not been taking off in many countries in the last years, but are really now to take off. For example, if we go into the trends in Europe, let's go to the next slide. Here we can see that 80% of the consumers globally are interested in insurance premiums tied to safe driving, and really the same across Europe, although there are differences across the countries, really, again, with Italy taking the lead. We also see that globally, 60% of the consumers are in favor of life insurance premiums that are tied to healthy lifestyle for redemption and reduction in premiums. Again, consumers are willing to exchange data, but always with an incentive behind it. And it's true, as we're seeing, for most countries in Europe. These are the two first areas of action, so different segments, different use personalized data. And now let's move to the third area of action, because we have seen a consumer in conflict. What we are seeing is that despite the willingness of the consumers to share data in exchange for value, the consumer trust is down. Less than 1/3 of the consumers say that they trust their insurers to look after the data. And this is an decrease of 8% from 2 years ago. We are seeing that the insurers are both facing increasing cyber threat as well as consumer trust problem. The reality is that the number of cyber attacks against insurers have doubled in the past 2 years, although the successful data breaches in the insurance industry are down 40%. But 38% of the customers also think that it's the time to manage more their data, This is a trend that we see overall, not just in the insurance industry, and that's one of the reasons why they are reluctant as well to give up personal data. So we need to make sure to achieve the right balance between the digital and the human interactions, because this is what's making a difference. What we have seen in our study is that although the consumers are interacting more and more in the digital realm, especially during the COVID-19 times, they are still viewing the human touch points as more trustworthy than the digital touch points when they are in need. So getting to the right balance between human and machine interactions, we think it's one of the areas where we can help return the trust of the consumers in sharing the data with the customers. With this in mind, we are coming up with some considerations for insurers at the end of the report. So as we don't know how long the pandemic will last, but we do know that certain consumer behavioral changes may not be short-lived, we are thinking that the consumers will keep asking questions about the business, questions that really will be around personalization. And the good news is that the same technology that may have been disrupting insurers in the past now can be used to grow their business, ensuring that the relevance and personalized insurance that the customers want. For example, we think in the first area where we have the differences across the generations, we think that insurers could invest strategically in digital capability that can meet the needs of these different segments. So this investment may not only apply in insurance product, but also in relationship with other industries or with insurtechs. So more digitalized products, but with a flavor for the different segments. We also think, given the personalization challenges that we have seen in the study, that insurers need to reinvent the usage and behavior-based insurance offerings for greater personalization. Insurance will have to decide in which instances they actually need to be the platform owner of those offers, or they might want to integrate with other platforms to get better performance for the customers. Another key area to get into personalization is to cultivate the data and analytics capability, because it would allow to integrate better personalized pricing and incentives in the different offerings. And thirdly, to restore the trust, as we said before, we really need to make sure we can get the right mix of human and machine intervention. This could help reverse this consumer trust trend to better engage customers. So, and this applies not only to the consumer interaction with the company, but also think about your agents' personal connections. They are connecting through digital channels more and more this past year, but let's make sure that we have the right balance between digital and human touch. So really, in summary, what we are seeing is that every insurer is different, but it's very key that we make sure that we listen to the consumers and their concerns. Because as we have seen in the study with the different statistics, consumers are using more digital channels, but they're looking for more personalization, but still they have this trust conflict to resolve. So let's make sure that what we can offer them is really targeting their needs, but also targeting the level of comfort with the different interactions. And really, this is what we wanted to share today as highlight of the study. And we would also like to make sure to get your input on those trends. And we want to check if this is also something you are seeing with your customers. How has it been changing over the last 2 years? So for that, I think that we have a poll, and let's see if we can come up. Thank you. So in the poll, you have 3 questions, as you can see, around your customers and how they have changed the expectation of your company. If they either have increased more sustainable practices demand, or if they ask you for more products and services tailored to the data. And how about the fear of data breaches? Is that also something they have been raising for you? So we would appreciate if you could select the best option for your company, and then we can have this as a good input for our panel discussion.
Thank you, Sylvia. So we'll just give it a few seconds here for participants to respond. We have about 111 participants as of right now. It's a good number. Give everyone a few seconds here, and then I'll ask Sylvia's response to the results. All right, Mirka, we'll give it another 5-10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the results are in.
Okay.
So Sylvia, we have 72% of people, pretty overwhelming majority, said that their consumers have a desire for more products and services tailored to their data. That appears to align with the results of the study. Does that align with what you are seeing and hearing from your clients and everywhere?
Yeah, correct. I think this really confirms, right, the data that we have achieved in receiving the study, because really we saw this desire for personalization much more than before, and also the customers' willingness to exchange data for this personalization, especially with incentives and beyond those. So I think it's good, great to see that this really matches with what we have seen in the pool, in the survey. And also I think this is a great introduction for the panel, because we can discuss a little bit more about how we can tailor these products and services to data. It can be through a combination of products that are paid per use, other behaviors. It can be a combination of products and services. So I think this is a great intro to the next section.
Perfect. So if I could ask Monica, Genoveva, and Stuart to turn their cameras back on, and we'll now bring all three of them in for our panel. And Sylvia, I believe you have a few questions that you're going to ask of our esteemed guests, and the floor is back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we'll be discussing questions aligned to the three key areas that we have been seeing in the study. So the first question would be around which strategic investment do you think are needed to meet the specific needs of the customer, given these differences we have seen, for example, with the generational segment. So I will ask maybe Stuart, if it is okay for you to start, giving your perspective.
Okay. So I was just thinking ladies first in my mind, so apologies for that. Absolutely. So I agree with the study and the insights that you've generated. So from our perspective at Zurich, we've done a few of these strategic investments. On one hand, looking at sustainability, but looking at sustainability way beyond climate change. So you'll see more and more of these products coming to market, because it's our role to drive this sustainable change. I just bought, for instance, a car, and it's a hybrid. And I myself, when I use more the hybrid version, I'll get 20% discount off of my insurance. And it's these small examples that can move towards that. And that's what customers see. Then internally, what we've done, in every single market, we've created a customer office. So to listen to the customer, to be there on the front end. And with the championship, we're more and more focusing on open innovation, whether with other insurers, whether with startups, partnerships, because alone we won't be able to address the fast changing needs that we see from changing from customers. So if we look 10 years ago, we would not be thinking of how many drones are in the world, in the skies today, or even the concept non-digital, like vegan food, has just plummeted. It's high, it's massive. So how can we be fast with that? And that's one of the things that we're doing. Okay, hopefully that addresses.
No, thank you very much. And maybe just to complement Stuart on that one, are you also seeing the demand about maybe different type of partnerships or investment, not only in insurance products, but maybe some partnerships? Have you seen some examples around that?
Absolutely. And one thing that we, as a motto, we want to move more is into prevention, not only that protection component. And we've got now one product called Live Well, which we've launched in several markets, which is not about telling people what to do, but giving the self-management when it comes down to health and life management, putting the power back into their hands, giving that information. And so that's one partnership that we've done. Some components of that partnership we've acquired, other components with licenses. So it's a mix and match of build versus buy.
Perfect. No, thank you very much. And maybe how about yourself, Monica? Are you seeing also the change in customer demand for different generation segments? And what strategic investment would you advise to start looking into?
Well, talking about the customers, really what you said is really truthful. Customers who share their information are leading us to adapt our business models. And increasing these digital interactions with customer has led to an exponential increase in data. And this huge increase makes it more necessary than ever to collect, integrate, analyze, and activate data. And that gives us a unique vision of the customer and the relationship also with the company, and of course, consequently, a better understanding of the behavior and needs of the customer. But it is true that the customer must perceive the value offered by the company in proportion to the data they are sharing, the trust you were talking about in the study. At Mapfre, we have a digital data model and a data governance system that focus on these matters. And for data to benefit the customer, there must be an internal cultural change in the company. So if we mix years of expert knowledge and we complement it by well-exploited data, that really allows us to develop new user experiences, value propositions, and business models, as Stuart just mentioned. So this unified customer vision allows us to offer integral solutions, as you mentioned, products and services that are really better adapted to each customer. So we can also generate proposals to cover new demands and opportunities with products linked to IoT, such as pay-per-use vehicle insurance, on-off insurance, like the launch that we made in Spain with Jeep Job, or new telemedicine or teleassistant services in a different way, like health services platforms as Savia, or products that are really specifically designed for senior generations, as it was mentioned in the customer study, as you just mentioned, Silvia. But we have to bear in mind that we must continuously listen to the voice of the customer in order to increase personalization in all the communications, personalize user experience, which is a key factor, simplify the processes, ramp up value-added products and services, and very important, employ an omni-channel approach to better serve the customer needs. And in my opinion, the relationship with customers is without a doubt one of the great axes of the current transformation. In the massive increase of digital channels and the falling borders, as we mentioned, between sectors, encourages insurers to really be creative and innovative in order to meet these increasingly high expectations of our customer. And I firmly believe that the insurance companies have a great opportunity to create truly innovative solutions and offer great value to our customers.
Okay. Thank you. No, I think that's really great to hear, because that aligns right with our finding. It's good to hear that you as insurers are also driving in this direction. And maybe Genoveva, also from your point of view, which strategic investments do you think might be needed given this customer needs and demands?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the Monica and Stuart already mentioned it, no? But I mean, we really definitely need to understand our customers better, no? And it's not anymore about customers, let's say this weird cloud or pool or, you know, of data points that we have, but we really need to think about the personas, no? And really thinking about, you know, what a specific interest, the different customer target groups that we have, they have, and also how this matches also the customer segments of our business partners, no? Because I mean, also when we define the product, services, and solutions for our customers, I mean, we really need to take this into account. No, it's very different when we talk about the customer base and the expectations that the customers that Deutsche Bank might have, for example, and N26, no, that is. And we really need to be able to differentiate our offers in that way, and really go from the traditional, let's say, push strategy that we as insurers used to have, to really pull the strategy, you know, where really customers feel that we are really giving a specific solution that is targeting their needs, and they are really, let's say, demanding from us those products.
Mm-hmm.
So I really believe that the understanding the customers and really, let's say, investing in understanding much better our customers is something that we cannot escape of, and I mean we all need to do.
Yeah, I think that's great input, because like you say, right, traditionally it was more a push from the insurers, and now it's listening from the consumers, what they demand, and try to match the offerings with the demand, right? And also in the area of data exchange, are you also seeing, Genoveva, that your consumers are demanding data exchange? Are you reworking some of your existing offerings?
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, it's true that we really need to be there when it's most relevant, for our consumers, and really being able to make our offers based on trigger-based data points, and also on the usage that the consumers want to have. I mean, is fundamentally something that they are demanding. It's also true that, I mean, we need to be very careful how we manage it, and requires, I mean, a lot of investments and a lot of expertise and a lot of test and try, because, I mean, this is especially for the generations that you were mentioning, Sylvia, that are more interested, for millennials, that is like we have a Tinder approach, so it's like you have 1 second, 2 second opportunity. So we really need to make sure that in these kind of offers that are trigger based or pay per use, that we really address the consumer when it's most relevant and when it makes most sense, for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's great feedback from, and maybe also wondering about a little bit about integration with third parties. Also, Genoveva and Monica, in your case, I also understand, Stuart, you mentioned it, that you're working also with third parties, right? So I don't know if there's something there that you would like also to share, because it's personalized offerings, right? Sometimes it takes not only the insurer, but also some other type of services. Mm-hmm. Monica, sorry, I think we cannot hear you.
Of course. Yeah, as I mentioned before about data, I think the key point here is to really be able to adjust your processes and your point of view, and not from what, as Genoveva mentioned, what you want to push to the customers, but what you want to pull from them, and understanding better when are you more relevant and reliable for them to rebuild that trust. And that you cannot only make it alone and only with the data that they are able to share, but with all the ecosystem of data, right? You need to take advantage of all the possibilities that the digital world brings right now, with third party, with agreements, and this is a more connected world than ever. And it's a multi-sector world, and the customer is one, and you have to really understand the integral needs they have to be able to serve them better. And not only from the data point of view, from processes and services and products, but also for the distribution model itself.
Okay, no, that's great. And maybe just talking about the distribution model, I am also wondering a little bit about we mentioned it briefly in the study, like the human interaction, the combination of human and digital. It's important not just for the insurer themselves, but also for the distribution network, right? For example, agents or other really representatives of the insurer with the customer. So maybe Stuart, do you have a view there about what are you doing with the role of the agents? Are you reevaluating the agents of the future? Yes. Oh, sorry, Stuart, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, I just wasn't mute. So the agents is simple. We're supporting the agents. We believe in the agent model. The agents are important for us as other intermediaries. So it's more using the digital tools to support them. And in some cases, give some tools to the customers for the self-management. But as the study also mentioned, a lot of times we as consumers and customers, we want and desire some human interaction. We don't want to just talk to a robot. And that's why digital can be a very key player towards supporting agents. But then it's not only agents, as you just mentioned, in terms of human. We're now starting to analyze new trends. So worksite marketing, can we be present in different places? Can we be selling insurance at the convenience store where you are? We've got partnerships with MediaMarkt, for instance, in Germany. Or even as some people are already starting to extrapolate, maybe the influencers could be the agents of the future, as we see for other brands in retail. So the world is full of opportunities at the moment. It's really about exploring that and not forgetting that the world is not only digital, but human is super important.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sylvia. No, I think that this is also something that we don't forget, is that I mean, digitization is very extremely important. We are all very much focused on digitalizing everything, no, and we want to be customer friendly and more efficient and everything. But also, I mean, at the end of the day, digitization needs to be a way to be more customer centric, and not the other way around, no. And for example, I mean, sometimes it just doesn't make sense, no. And leveraging what Stuart was saying, I mean, we always many times we have discussions regarding areas like, I don't know, health or mental health or things like that, and our business partners ask us, okay, so is this available in our channels? And we say, well, actually, it's not because we cannot do it, but because customers do not want to. Because I mean, maybe if you're having a discussion with a therapist about a depression, you don't want to have a video chat, no? So it's something that we need to take into account. That, I mean, at the end of the day, is really about the what customers want, no?
Okay. No, thank you. I think correct. I think that's a key point that also came up in the study, right? It's correct. It's at the end, it's the customers are the ones that are driving the demand, and they might, especially when they're in need, they might want a different way of communicating than when it's something standard, right? It's not the same thing an on-off insurance than having a health issue, right? So correct, you are right that we have to make sure that we address the different cases. And how about your case, Monica? How about in Mapfre? What are you seeing about the agents, digital and enabled? What is your view also of the future?
I think it is essential, and companies cannot ignore that this digital revolution has changed the reality in which we operate. And we really must acknowledge that customer empowerment has changed completely the rules of the game. And all these changes have been further accelerated by the global pandemic, in my view. So consumers definitely want, as we said, and then we talked about before, on-demand and digital experiences, of course, but they also want the personal service and guidance that agents deliver. Indeed, they want it all, and they have to get it. So the results of this is that the role of traditional distribution networks based on offices and agents has really undergone a rapid process of digitalization, and that has transformed them into networks of digital agents. At Mapfre, what we are doing is we're empowering agents by giving them all the digital capabilities that really enable them to compete for these modern insurance customers. And so agents have increased their digital presence in internet, in social networks. So now they have a digital gateway, really, of their agencies, and they're embracing these new ways of communication too, with their customers through chats, video conferences, instant messaging. So the ability to get closer to our customers is really enhanced by this change. And in my opinion, the opportunity here lies in helping agents analyze data to discover customer needs, or maybe untapped market opportunities, as Stuart said before, in facilities, this cross-selling, upselling, retention, the management, the portfolio management, and that therefore increase their efficiency, as Genoveva just mentioned. But for the customer, this will create this seamless insurance experience, which is the focus of it all. And there's one thing really important to mention, that the value of the channel depends both upon the customer circumstances and the business line. It has nothing to do motor and life. So therefore, I think it is vital to take into account the value contribution perceived by the customer and use this information to offer the optimal channel in response to the need of each customer. So at Mapfre, at least, the structure of the agents' digital networks is completely integrated into the company's omnichannel customer service model. And this allows us to recommend the most appropriate channel for the customer, meaning we can provide a personalized experience throughout the customer journey using physical, remote, or self-service channels. But we really believe that the key is to provide customers with the best experience in the channel in which they wish to interact with us. And we are the ones who must adapt to their needs. And our agency networks play a decisive role in this new digital world because they have a unique ingredient, which is the human touch.
I agree with you, Monica. If I can just, Sylvia, just to add, I see there's a question also from the audience regarding how do we collaborate with an aggressive customer or very demanding customer. And it's exactly what Monica is saying. Some customers don't want to spend talking to someone on the phone. They just don't want it. They want to have a chatbot. They want to have that digital experience. Other customers, maybe my mom, she doesn't want to have to type something in. She wants someone who she can talk to and treat it. They give her that human touch, but it's personalized to them. And then understanding what's driving that frustration, that aggressiveness, is then easier than according to their demands. Hopefully that addresses the question from the audience.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a great point. I'm also looking at we got some other questions coming in. So yeah, maybe let's take the opportunity to look through those. One is actually more a comment. It's about don't lose sight about the segment of the 40 age, the purchasing power, right? That's true. I think it's a segment, correct, that have the power to buy, but they're interested in more personalized pay-per-use type of products, which we sometimes associate to millennials. So I think you are right. I don't know what you're feeling about this, Monica, Genoveva, Stuart, about this middle segment, right? Because sometimes we focus on millennials or seniors. So how about like the 40s segment?
If I may, well, I don't want to disclose my age, but I really feel inside this part of the age range, so I can talk personally too. Well, I think it really depends on the markets and why do you want that data for. If you go to Italy, this pay-per-use or telematics approach is more about the safety of your car to recover it when you have certain claims, right? And sometimes, and now with the pandemic, I think everything has changed very much and very rapidly, right? Because of the consumer, maybe you want to use your vehicles or your house for different purposes as previously. Home working, different kind of travel by car. So it's not about just the pay-per-use, it's about what the data means, how can you provide the best experience and the best service for each moment. So really, we must think about finding dynamic solutions for iterative situations or different iterations that we are going to find, because customers will feel that they have different needs throughout the time. It's not just pay-per-use or on demand or on-off. It is more accurate than that, I think. You have to really target the specific needs that a certain customer has in a different moment for a different need. And a customer has many faces, and you have to talk to the right face at the right time, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, because like you said, right, demand is different depending on the moment, depending on the product, depending on, there are a lot of factors to take into account.
Yeah.
Going further on this question, maybe about this segment, this 40 segment, I don't know, Stuart, for example, do you have any experiences that you like to share? Is there something you have seen?
Yes, I will go again with the same comment that Monica did in terms of age. So I'm a bit frustrated with one thing, because at Zurich we've put the age, maybe part of me, as of born of 1981. I was born in 1980, so I'm 40, so I also feel in that age group. And we need to be also inclusive. It's the millennial mindset. I know people that are 60 years old that have got more of a millennial mindset than people that are in their 20s. So we need to make sure that we also need to have this diversity and inclusion brought everywhere. And we see that in some of the markets that we've launched. For instance, we've launched Clink in Spain, Germany, now where device insurance can be toggled on and off. We did the same in the US with Toggle, with a company that we manage but don't own, called Farmers, for renters insurance, because some of the customers had in mind, and because of the industry, that home insurance is only when you own, but not when you rent. So there's a massive opportunity by demystifying that and then giving people a chance to toggle on, off, to change their coverage as they go through the cycles of life. So I would say millennial can be a mindset instead of being a generational segment only.
Yeah, I think that's the point. How about you, Genoveva? Yeah.
No, yes, I mean, I agree. At the end of the day, what is our goal is to accompany the customer across all the life cycle, no? So from even children and youngsters, millennials, but also people in their 40s and seniors, no? So this is something that we don't lose of sight. And then also, as we said, we use the data, and we can understand the data in and approaching these customer segments in different ways.
Perfect.
If I may add something, just a little thing is, it's about convenience, really. It's not only about age, and you see it in the smart speakers. In my family around, the one that uses the most is my dad, who's over 80. And when you talk to him and you ask, oh, you are very technological. No. It's hard for me to read in the small devices. And it's just respond to my needs. And so, yeah, it works. So, and I did it there. So I think we as insurers have a challenge there to simplify our processes and keep in mind a really focus on the customer centricity with their needs on mind.
Yeah. I think correct. I think it's important to identify these needs, right? Because something we have to demystify, like also Stuart was saying, generation concept, like your example, Monica. People might be more comfortable with one channel or the other in a different way than we thought, right? So I think that's very interesting. And also we have a question around countries. People are wondering about why do we think that in Italy they're on the top. In answering about their willingness to exchange data for usage-based, behavior-based products, and also digital platforms. I don't know if you have a view on those, because I think you're 3 companies, right? Actually, also present in Italy. Not sure if you are seeing this willingness in the Italian market for more experience around data. Go ahead.
But I think Italy. Yeah, I think in Italy is the biggest European country for telematics solutions, and they have a long, let's say, history on telematics, and it's because a very simple reason. I mean, the insurance companies were able to provide, let's say, much more attractive prices, and customers really saw the value of the, let's say, sharing the data with the insurance company in exchange, no? So also, I mean, because that would allow also the insurance companies to control much better topics like fraud. And I think this is basically the reason why in Italy they have quite some already history on this kind of services. The market is quite used to, and customers are much more open to that because they really also see the benefit of sharing this data with insurance companies.
Thank you, Genoveva. Stuart, Monica, anything else to add? You're also seeing this trend? Okay.
Nothing to add.
Then maybe, okay, perfect. Then maybe let's go to the next question I'm seeing, which is an interesting question. Is what do you think is the impact in your traditional insurance products and companies with the appearance of more flexible products, or maybe more perceived flexible products from startups or even from other potential competitors like Amazon or other distributors? So maybe if you could also share your perspective about insurtechs, but also maybe other type of competitors.
Maybe I can go first on this one. So one thing that 2020 has been the record high year of deal flows into insurtech. So it's attracting so much capital and talent. So we need to, that's rising. So we can either compete with them or we can collaborate with them. And the one thing that we cannot do is just stand still. That complacency will kill the companies or the industry that we're working in, at least the insurers. And we would not have a job, I guess, the panelists around this video call today. So it's really good because it pushes us to do more for the customer. It pushes us to deliver more and to think about new ways of collaborating and exploring how can we do best for our customers. So I welcome it big time.
Okay, thank you. How about yourself, Monica? You're seeing also this collaboration competition?
Well, we firmly believe in collaboration. That's of course. And as I mentioned before, this is a matter of ecosystems, right? And you have to be where the customer is and what the customer is expecting to find you, really. Amazon, of course, we've seen it, the growth in these past years and powered by this pandemic, and not only Amazon, but all marketplaces in general, we partner with them, of course. We have a strong partnership with them. Indeed, we place our services, our products, and it's a wide partnership. To understand better the customer, you have to be where the customer is. And this is not only, it's not a matter of competition, it's a matter of adding what you are good at, taking what the other one is good at, join forces, and providing the best integrated solutions in products and services to better really serve the customer, because that's when you gain the customer trust, and when you really respond to their needs, and when you really become relevant. So this is a really ecosystem world, and you need to play it, and it's really challenging and interesting.
Oh, thank you. I think that's a reality. And assume, Genoveva, in your role, right, with alliances, I guess you are seeing the same.
Yes, no, absolutely. And we partner with numerous startups and insurtechs. And to be honest, I also welcome they challenge our industry, and they are become like disruptive players in our industry. And at the end of the day, I always say, no, customers need to choose us because we are the best option that they have, not because they have to. No, and this should be our motto always.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll get another interesting question, and I think it might be difficult to answer, but which do you think is the best way to capture the customer's opinion on whether they want this type of new experiences? So which channels, which ways are you communicating and capturing this information? Maybe, Genoveva, you like to start? And
yes, I mean, I think on one side we need to ask them, and on the other side, we need to test that what they say is actually true. Not because they want to lie, because it's not that they have an intention to lie to us, but people tend to say that they want things in a certain way, and then in reality, or very customized, or a little bit more complex, or a little bit, when you ask them, like, would you be willing, they say yes, why not, no? But then the truth is that, at least in my experience, is that when you test, and it's sometimes at the end simplicity wins, no? So I think on one side we have to listen to our customers, on the other side we really need to test, and with that our, let's say, insights are actually true in reality,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Guess it's the same for about Stuart or Monica. If you'd like to add something about capturing this consumer demand side.
So I agree. I think it's about listening to the customer, and that can be through the NPS survey. It can be even close the loop calls, just spending some time and hearing a customer out, understanding what's there. I fully agree that we need to test it, because sometimes they say something but then it means something else. At the same time, we see that it varies according to the complexity of the product. So personalization for gadget insurance may be higher than necessarily all of that tailoring for a life product, where they want customers usually adapt for something that's way more solid, standardized, and relevant in that market. And this is the reason why the B2C, so the business to consumer direct, is stronger on the P&C side than on the life and health. So you'll see these trends happening, and then over time, I expect to see this strengthening.
Yeah. Okay. In my opinion, I think you have to take two approaches. You have to ask them, of course, because that's a really insightful information, but you have to take into account all the data of their behavior. It's really what they say and what they do, because insurance is not easy for many customers. They don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to buy an insurance policy. It's so exciting. It's not. Maybe we reached that point at some time, but right now, not so much. But so you have to understand really when you are convenient for them and when you're necessary, and that's by behavior. And you have to understand them. And sometimes they don't really know what they want. And our duty is not only to put this insurance culture into their minds, but also to help them understand that they really need it sometimes, and they didn't even know.
Yeah, sometimes I when I was 18, somebody asked me the question whether I would like to have a camera in my mobile phone, and I said no, because I already have a great photo camera. So I'm very glad that the marketing team of that company didn't listen to me, but at that time, because yeah, sometimes we don't know what we don't know, basically.
Yes. No, thanks. No, I think that's a great point. And actually, it's also tied with one of the questions we have to wrap up. Is about how we got some of the data in the study around personalization needs. So really what we did is we have targeted this question about would they be willing to exchange data for this, or would they be willing to have a bundled product. So we can share, of course, in the study, you see the details about the different questions we had and how we took the insights from those. But of course, happy to share with the audience. They can reach here to Efma or myself, and we can share them the different questions that were posted to extract these insights. And I think with this, well, I will thank the panel, and I will hand it over to Kevin for close.
Great. Thank you so much, Sylvia. So thank you to everyone, Sylvia, Stuart, Monica, Genoveva. Thank you all for your time and your valuable insights in a very informative roundtable. And thank you to our audience for joining us. We had about 100 people here the entire time, and it was great. I hope you all found this as enlightening as I did. Wanted to remind everybody here before we close out that this session was indeed recorded. So if you did want to watch it again, you can find it along with a lot of other great content at efma.com. And be sure to access the full report that Sylvia discussed, because there's a lot more in there that she could not fit into a 20-minute presentation. So make sure to check that out at Accenture's website. We will be sure to send a follow-up email to everybody who participated in the call. So with that, we will conclude. Thank you to everybody, and we look forward to seeing everyone at our next webinar, and have a fantastic rest of your Thursday afternoon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.